Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Yo soy David García y soy director del grupo editorial Penguin Random House. Gracias a la Feria Internacional del Libro por tenernos aquí hoy. Nos alegra mucho tener por primera vez en la feria a Cecilia Ahern. Ella nació en Irlanda en los años 80 y cuando solo tenía 21 años publicó su primera novela, Posdata, Te amo, con la que todos estamos profundamente familiarizados. Como bien saben, y espero que también hayan leído el libro y no solo visto la película, la pantalla grande, y después de eso, Cecilia ha escrito alrededor de 15 novelas, entre ellas la que nos ocupa hoy para presentar, que es Ave Lira. Cecilia es realmente dulce y extraordinaria y hoy estuvimos platicando un poco acerca de sus intenciones de volver a México y la veo emocionada por aprender un poco de español. La acompaña Galaxia, que como ustedes saben es difícil definirla porque creo que hace un poco de todo. Es blogger, pero es booktuber, pero es marketing professional. Y la verdad es que está muy emocionada de acompañar a Cecilia hoy. Es una fan de Hueso Colorado, de maleta llena de todas las ediciones. Yo sospecho que es librera y a lo mejor luego quiere venderlos. Les doy la bienvenida y les pido un fuerte aplauso para ambos.
Ok, voy a comenzar para platicarles un poco de esta mujer. Para todos los que a lo mejor no la conocen o solo conocen uno de sus libros o dos de ellos. Bueno, quiero comentarles cómo la conocí yo. Yo la conocí hace 15 años. Digo, la conocí ahorita hace un rato, pero sus libros los conocí hace 15 años. Cuando yo tenía 15, no lo sumen, no hagan cuentas, pero en ese entonces yo conocí Posdata, Te amo. Realmente me llamó mucho la atención, fue como de esos primeros libros que como que empezaba a leer y me atrapó en ese momento pues yo era una adolescente, era muy dramática y para mí fue como que wow, lo amo. En ese momento fue, sí, el drama me fascina. Digo, para los que no conocen la historia, que me imagino que la mayoría, Holly pierde a su esposo, a lo mejor los varias cartas para, digamos, superar como ese proceso. Después de ello y de que fue como esos primeros libros que yo amé con toda el alma, empecé a seguirla y a buscar cada uno de sus siguientes novelas. No sé el número exacto que tiene ahorita, pero yo creo que son más de 10 o algo así, son realmente muchísimos libros. Y algo que amo muchísimo de sus libros es que tienen una magia especial cada uno de ellos. No es una historia real, no es una historia como en el mundo real ya, sino como una historia que te hace soñar, que te hace creer en que la magia realmente existe y está entre nosotros. Es una especie de realismo mágico, por llamarlo de alguna forma. Y bueno, entre tantas cosas yo no me explico cómo le hace Cecilia para lograr que cada uno de sus libros toque un tema diferente en cuestiones de magia, porque realmente pareciera que lo escribe tal cual con un propósito único y que quiere que sientas algo en específico y que te lleves algo. No solamente vas a leer, son libros que te dejan algo, son libros que se sienten, que verdaderamente te llevan por un torrente de diferentes emociones y al final te dejan con algo. No, me gustaría, ya que tenemos aquí a Cecilia, pues preguntarle cómo es que decide esas emociones o cómo es que comienza con esa parte.
Yes, I do. Okay, I'm gonna. I do write from the heart. That's very important for me. People say you should write what you know, and I think that I write about emotions because I'm a very feeling person. So when I go to work, I will literally be sitting at my desk crying my eyes out and laughing And if I don't feel it, then I can't write it, and I know it's not the right story. And I think that's the magic of books. I think whatever the author puts into a story, the magical thing about books is the reader will feel it themselves. So when I cry, I want you to cry. When I laugh, I want you to laugh. And I love when people say to me, I loved your books, they made me cry, and I think, yes. I want to make you cry, and I think it's because I want to move you. And we all know that anything that you are emotionally connected to is something that you will remember, you know, whether it's a movie, a song. I think once you feel it in your heart, it's something very memorable. So that's where I come from when I'm writing. The characters aren't always me. They're not me, and they're not my personal situations, but I will always put my feelings, my emotions in them.
Ok, bueno, digo, hablando, paso como a otro libro de los que ella tiene, creo que uno muy conocido es Love Rosie, donde termina el arco iris, o no recuerdo qué otro nombre le pusieron, definitivamente quizá, o tal vez, algo así. Es que hay como ya 3, 4 traducciones del título. Y esta es una historia en la que dos amigos están como súper a distancia, y también aquí Cecilia nos hizo sufrir muchísimo con ella. Fue una historia, honestamente, con la que yo me identifiqué muchísimo, y en un momento de la vida que pues yo estaba viviendo varias cosas que estaba viviendo la protagonista. Entonces era como que lloraba con ella, me reía con ella, me identificaba, o sea, cada que leía decía, oh, sí, así pasa, es igualito. O sea, de verdad, todo lo sentía como tal cual. Y me gustaría platicarles de saltarme un poquito la historia, solo se las voy contando para que vayan conociendo cada una de ellas. Si pudieras verme ahora, porque quisiera saber, es una historia donde la magia, la pequeña magia que tiene es que nos habla de los amigos imaginarios. Y a mí lo que me fascina es que toma esos temas donde los adultos a veces, por estar trabajando tanto, nos olvidamos como de lo que era verdaderamente importante, o de volver a ser niños, de ese tipo de cosas. Me gustaría que ella nos platicara cómo fue que surge pues esta idea de traer a los amigos imaginarios como estilo.
No, that's an unusual idea. I wanted to, yeah, you talk about magic, and I suppose I like to tell stories from a very unique perspective. And with If You Could See Me Now, I wanted to tell the story of an invisible friend. I know so many children have invisible friends when they're growing up, and they truly believe that there is somebody there. And I spoke to a lot of adults about when they had invisible friends, and they could tell me what their friend looked like. They all had a name, an actual name. It got me thinking about the fact, well, what if, you know, what if somebody is there and we don't see it? And so who is this community of invisible people whose job it is to help children at a certain time in their life, and they're just not seen by everybody? So I wanted to tell the story from the perspective of an invisible friend, but also who befriends an adult for the first time, and he is so used to being unseen, and yet she feels invisible too. So I wanted them to have this connection where she was going through life feeling like she wasn't being seen, and these invisible people come together and they see each other and truly understand each other. So it was a really fun book to write, but again I wanted to kind of flip it and write something very unusual. But after I wrote the book, I received a lot of letters from people like social workers who said that, you know, not just children, but adults would often have a guide in their life during a very difficult time in their life. And it was somebody that not everybody could see. So I do believe in possibilities. You know, I believe that we don't always know everything that's going on, and everybody has a very unique experience. And I love to just play with that in my stories and introducing new concepts and ideas and broadening the mind and asking that question, what if? You know, what if this was real? And so If You Could See Me Now is very unusual in that way, but it was the first of my novels that kind of had a magic realism feel to it.
Sí, justo eso, creo que eso fue lo que más me atrapó a mí de todas las historias. O sea, siempre he sido una persona que cree mucho en la magia, o sea, en general, las hadas, los elfos, el ratón de las dientes. Siempre he sido como muy como apegada a ese tipo de cosas. Entonces cuando de repente descubro estos libros fue como de ¡wow! Me encantan. Así como, sí, piensa igual que yo. Y bueno, algo similar o algo que me llevó como también a esta parte es tiene otro libro donde nos habla, se llama Un lugar llamado Aquí, y nos habla de todas las cosas que perdemos. Es el lugar a donde se van todas las cosas. Entonces es como muy curioso porque construye pues como todo un mundo y toda una razón de ser de por qué perdemos los calcetines, o sea, el típico de que los Salvador ahí ya no están, o sea, cosas que con frecuencia se nos pierden y ella le da como que solución a todo eso. Cuéntanos un poco de cómo fue este proceso en ese caso.
So you're all going to think I'm completely crazy now, but I really did enjoy writing that book. And it was inspired by socks, by missing socks. I kept thinking, where do the things go when they go missing? You know, we put our socks in the laundry and always I get one back. There must be a place and where my other earring is and the back of my earring and all the pens that I lose. And yeah, I wanted to create a world where all the missing things go. And it started off as being a very kind of playful idea, but then of course people go missing too. And so I created the character of Sandy Short, whose job it is to find missing people. And at a very young age, at 10 years of age, a girl who kind of school friend goes missing. But she spends her entire life very curious and as to where this person has gone, and as an adult sets up a missing persons agency. But I think the story is about how she literally wanders off the wrong path in life and doesn't recognise who she is or where she is. And so it is a big metaphor for how we can all get lost at certain stages of our lives. But all of these people who get lost find themselves in the same world, they're all lost together as a community and trying to find their way back home. So yes, there's on the surface of it, it's funny, but I like to go a lot deeper and talk about missing people, where do missing people go, and also when we lose a sense of ourselves, we also miss ourselves.
Justo, digo, es lo que les comento, realmente cada uno de los libros nos aporta algo diferente o nos hace pensar en un momento como diferente de lo que solemos hacer con frecuencia. Y bueno, me gustaría que nos platicara ahora un poquito de Un regalo del cielo, de Kiev. Es un libro que surgió algo así como en Navidad, pero yo creo que sería bueno que nos platicara un poquito más de él.
Yeah, so the gift is, I remember the moment I came up with this idea. P.S. I Love You movie had just come out, so I was in New York for a premiere. I was also working on the TV show Samantha Who, and I had just finished writing my novel Thanks for the Memories, and I was feeling very overwhelmed, very busy, very fortunate obviously, but really, really busy. And I was in a hotel in New York to do an interview, and the interviewer asked me if I could go to an event on a certain night, and I said, well, if I could clone myself and figure out how to be in two places at once, then I will. And that was the light bulb moment when I thought, what if I created a character who had the ability to be in two places at once? What would he do and where would he go? So I went straight back to my hotel room, and on the notepad I wrote down the idea for the gift. So it is about a character called Lucifer, who has a very, very big life. He's always trying to climb the ladder of success and doesn't have his priorities in order. He wants to work, but he's not spending enough time with his family. But he meets a character, a homeless man called Gabriel. So you can see I'm doing a Lucifer Gabriel thing. And he's given 3 opportunities to be in 2 places at once. And it's kind of a fable-like story. And this character slowly but surely learns where he should be spending his time and who he should value more. And it's actually a novel about time, you know, the gift of time. We're all running out of time, you know, we're spending it and we'll get it back, and the best gift that you can give to somebody else is the gift of your own time, and so that's what the gift is about.
Este libro en particular creo que es uno de los que te sorprende muchísimo al final, y a veces como que lo vas leyendo y vas como que lentamente como avanzando, y al final te sorprende tanto que quedas como maravillado con él, es como de, ¡ah! Todo tenía una razón de ser, o sea, como que te hace clic, es de esos libros que al final te hacen clic, entiendes todo y como que te deja algo así, como que muy, muy intenso, por eso quería que les platicara un poquito más sobre él. Como les dije, realmente ya tiene muchísimos libros, esa parte pues como mágica y especial es la que a mí me gusta, y como digo, la parte que aporta, creo que con cada historia te sorprende de una forma diferente. Y recientemente para México, llegaron 2 libros que son parte de una especie de distopía que ella decidió escribir, donde cambia un poquito el estilo, o creo que mucho el estilo. No sé si nos puedas platicar un poco de Perfectos, cómo fue este cambio de estar escribiendo para una edad un poco más adulta y de repente cambiar a los jóvenes.
Yeah. So Flawed was my first young adult novel, and it's a duology, which is a word I learned. And the first is Flawed and the second is called Perfect. And I think I wrote this novel, usually I write my novels from a place of love. I wrote this with anger. Just annoyed at society and how judgmental we are, and how we make it very difficult for people to have second chances if they've made a mistake. So I really enjoyed writing that novel. I think it's for all ages, but the reason why I suppose I chose to write the character as a 17-year-old is because that's the time where you're certainly finding your own voice. And up to that point you're listening to the people that you trust and respect in your life, and you're taking their word as gospel. But at some point you have to start making your own decisions. And for Celestine, she has been listening to this kind of overpowering, overwhelming voice that's trying to control society and keep everyone in line. And the idea is that if everyone makes mistakes, you know, to be human is to be flawed. And if we make a mistake, we learn from it. So the flawed section of society are actually more evolved, self-aware, and those who are afraid of taking risks will never really learn about themselves. And so I wanted to send out a positive message in the entire series, that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay not to be perfect, and we shouldn't be painting these perfect images of ourselves on Instagram or wherever else. That life is not perfect, and it would be no fun if it was. Mistakes can be fun. Not really, but you know, you can learn from them, you know, and you become stronger and become a better version of yourself after making mistakes. So I really, really enjoyed that book. I wrote the first draft in 6 weeks, which is the fastest I've ever written a novel. And I really enjoyed being in the young adult world, and it's certainly something I'd like to revisit, you know, writing more stories for young adults. But time, if I could clone myself, I would. If I could take a magic pill where there's 2 of me and I can write for adults and I can write for young adults, that would be, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
En la mañana me comentabas que Memorias de Cristal es uno de los libros que más te gustan. ¿A qué se debe eso?
Yes, so The Marble Collector was my novel before Larboard, and it was originally a short story which is in a collection of my short stories which will be out next year called Roar, available in all bookshops. And it was called The Woman Who Lost Her Marbles, and but it developed further and further. It's about a woman, it's a father-daughter relationship, and it's about a woman who, I'm going to this, but anyway, she discovers her father has a marble collection and there is one part of the collection missing, and she has to go and try and find it. But through looking for this very valuable collection for her father, she discovers this whole secret life that he had that she never knew about. I really enjoyed writing this novel because it's told from the perspective of the father and the daughter. The father's voice was something very new to me. He's in his 60s, but we see him throughout his whole life from the age of 5 all the way up to 60, and I just fell in love with him and his story, and I loved their relationship. But I did a lot of research into marbles, and met with a glass sculptor who showed me how to make marbles, and we spent a day making them together. Because when I'm researching a book, I really love to get involved in all the details to really truly understand the world that I'm writing about. And so I just got lost in the Marvel world. You know, I learned so much about Marvels and how important they were to people. Yeah, and I think it was an important book for me because it was certainly read by, I mean, my job is I want to be read by as many different people as possible, you know, and I want to write as many different kinds of stories as possible, and I think that one really did, you know, reach a wider audience, which is wonderful. I love to write romance, I love to write love stories, and I love to write my thrillers, that kind of story too. I think it's important for me as a writer to do as many different things as possible.
Y bueno, justo hablando de esto que dices que investigas muchísimo, ¿cómo es tu proceso creativo? O sea, ¿cómo es que vas desarrollando la novela que realizas alrededor?
So I always come up with the idea for the story first, and then I try to figure out what kind of character would find themselves in that position, and then the character feeds the story with the character, and it all develops from there. I'm a very structured, disciplined writer, so it's going to sound very boring, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So I begin every January, and my book is due every May, and then I edit for the summer, and then it's published in the autumn at home. And I write in an office outside of my home from about 4 days a week from 9 to 5. I write with pen on paper. I'm old-fashioned. And I love, I write a candle. I light a candle. I don't write a candle. I light a candle. And it's always the same candle with the same scent. And I actually met the candle maker a couple of months ago. We were doing the same TV show together, and she was telling me, I just fangirled her. Jo Malone, I don't know if you're familiar with Jo Malone, but she's an amazing candle woman. And so I fangirled her and I was like, I love you, I always light your candles when I'm writing my books. And she explained to me that when I light the candle, the scent is like a trigger for me. So it immediately gets me to the creative zone when I'm writing, which was really interesting because I always thought I liked these candles to set the kind of atmosphere to be relaxing and calm. And I don't want it to feel like work, I want to feel like I'm creating something artistic and wonderful. But it was interesting to hear that when I smell that scent, it kind of is like a trigger for me. So I have this space that I my stories in, and I work, it's like my secret hideaway, and I say, hello room. And then when I'm leaving for the day, I say, goodbye room, thank you. And then I get back to my life again. So it's wonderful. I love escaping. I suppose the same feeling that you get when you're reading a book is exactly how I feel when I'm writing. It's just pure escapism. I get lost in my head. I'll think 5 minutes has gone by, and it could be 5 hours. And I love that feeling. I just cannot keep up with my thoughts. And you know, when I have that horrible bumpy fear, I know that I've had a really good day at the office. So that is my creative process.
Wow. Justo siempre me había preguntado cómo le hace para escribir tantos libros, porque en verdad, o sea, cada año era una historia diferente y eran historias muy buenas. Entonces decía, ¿cómo le hace? O sea, ¿de verdad los escribe todos? De verdad, pero ya nos quitó la duda. Ya nos digo bastante rápido a como me imaginaba. O sea, no sé, creo que es muy rápido en un libro. Y te quedan muy bien para hacerlo tan rápido. Y bueno, cuéntanos, al escribir tantísimos libros, ¿cuál ha sido el más difícil de todos, el que más como que te ha tardado en realizar?
Well, the one I mentioned, the Marble Collector, I think I had more. I was writing the book, and I was writing the father's story, and I was writing the daughter's story, because each chapter. Thank you. Alternate. Sorry, I don't speak very good English. I'm Irish. So each chapter alternates from a father and daughter, and I kept going home to my husband and saying, I love this book, my publishers are going to hate it. I know which bit they're going to make me change. But I think sometimes you have to write the wrong thing in order to get the right thing, and that's what I'm learning 15 books on, that in order to get the right thing out, sometimes I need to I need to get it out there first. And so the feedback was exactly what I thought it would be. It says, we love the father story, but we're not so sure about the daughter story. So I had to go back and rewrite half the novel, which is the first time I've ever had to do that. So but I'm glad I did it. It's a better book because of it, and also one of my favourite books. So it shows that, you know, it made it better book and it made it more powerful for me. Yeah. So it's worth scrapping your good work.
Ok, bueno, y hablemos ahora sí de lo que nos tiene aquí, lo más importante que viene a presentar Cecilia, su nuevo book aquí su nuevo libro aquí en México. Platícanos de Ahern. Digo, yo lo que les puedo decir en personal, es un libro muy peculiar, con un personaje demasiado peculiar, pero bueno, creo que ella es la indicada para contarnos cómo es que surge el Ahern.
So, this is a long one. Well, first I have to tell you what a lyrebird is. So, I discovered lyrebird through a David Attenborough documentary. I love David Attenborough, and he was doing this documentary on birds. And so the lyrebird is a ground-dwelling bird from Australia, and it has this amazing ability to be able to mimic every single sound around it. So if you go to YouTube, you can see this 2-minute piece on how this lyrebird, who mimics not just other birds, but also chainsaws of the forest, alarms, mobile phones, the shutter speed of a camera. It's really remarkable what it can do. And I was showing this 2-minute piece to my little girl, who was 6 years old at the time, and she was watching it. And well, her name is Robin, and we've always told her, because she thinks she can talk to birds because her name is Robin. So I was showing her this piece, and she started trying to make the sounds that the lyrebird was making. And sometimes it helps to be a taxi mom waiting for a gymnastics class to begin, because that was the moment of inspiration, where I was listening to her trying to make these sounds, and I just thought, what if I created a character who had the abilities of a lyrebird? Why would she have them, and how would the world treat her? And so that's what lyrebird is about. The challenge for me, which was very exciting, was to create a character which was a human manifestation of a bird. So I had to research all the qualities of this lyrebird, and as a result I realised that they live in these absolutely very grand places with beautiful surroundings, usually forest areas. They're foragers, they're performers, they're shy, they're elusive, they sing to attract a soulmate, and in captivity, they don't thrive in captivity, and just all of these kind of traits became the traits of my character Laura. So to tell you what the book is about, it's about this character called Laura, who is discovered by a documentary crew living in a very remote part of Ireland in the mountains. And she's been living a very isolated life for a long period of time, and she has this ability to kind of not so much communicate with nature, but she's able to repeat every sound that she hears. It's her way of processing and understanding new sounds. So she's discovered by this documentary crew, and they decide that they want her to be the subject of their next show. And they take her from this peaceful, quiet environment where she's so happy and settled, and they thrust her into the limelight, and her life utterly changes. It's a book about sound, really. It's about how she hears all the things that us in our busy life have stopped hearing. She's very connected to nature and very grounded and very rooted in reality, and yet she's thrown into a world, into a reality show where people try to take advantage of her, trying to change her character and who she is, and she's really struggling to figure out who she is in this new modern world. It's also a love story, because the guy that she's connected to is the sound man part of the document. We have this connection about sound, and that is what lyrebird is about, and many, many, many other things, but I'll leave it there.
Bueno, yo solo les voy a contar que realmente es una historia que te deja muchos aprendizajes, que te hacen poner atención a lo que verdaderamente es importante y te hace pues ver un poquito del mundo en el que actualmente nos desarrollamos, ¿no? Un mundo lleno a lo mejor de comunicación, de redes sociales, de cosas que a lo mejor de repente sabemos muchas cosas en el foco o hablamos o criticamos o cosas por el estilo sin saber como lo que hay detrás o el trasfondo. Entonces creo que es una historia que va muy con la actualidad. Yo los invito muchísimo a que la conozcan y que conozcan, por supuesto, todos sus demás libros. De verdad tiene libros para todos los gustos, de todas las temas. Digo, a lo mejor un libro donde te llega una carta de tu vida, tienes una cita con tu vida, o sea, literal, tu vida te está llamando porque la protagonista como que está perdiendo el tiempo y su vida está como que, oye, pues, y literal, tiene una cita, o sea, tiene que conocerlo y va y habla con él, porque, digo, le toca ir como que, le llaman todo el tiempo, y no, es que no tengo tiempo, no te preocupes, nosotros nos adaptamos, no, pero es que tengo que ir acá, no te preocupes, llegamos ahí, o sea, para todo tenía como que un paro para no seguir. Entonces, realmente hay un montón de libros, pero ahorita me gustaría pasar a unas cuantas preguntas como que medio divertidillas que tenemos por ahí para Cecilia, que prácticamente son como que te gusta o no te gusta o qué prefieres de tal o tal cosa. Nada más déjenme saco mis notitas. Bueno, escuchen musiquita de ascensor, por favor.
I'll entertain you. Well,
Tiene una serie muy buena, por cierto, escribió Samantha Who hace ya un tiempo. Es una serie muy divertida, si la pueden ver por ahí. Yo estoy triste de que no hayan continuado con la temporada 2. Ella me dijo que también. Así que vean la temporada 1, está verdaderamente muy divertida. Muy bien. ¿Qué prefieres? ¿Tequila o tacos?
taco. Yum, yum.
¿Qué prefieres? ¿Friends o Sex and the City?
Very difficult. I think Friends, but I do love Sarah Jessica Parker and her shoes and her clothes. But I've seen more Friends.
Walt Disney or Pixar?
Disney.
Oh, what's your favorite character? Oh, perdón. ¿Cuál es tu princesa Disney?
Winnie the Pooh. That's Disney, isn't it?
Está bien.
It is now. Well, no, I grew up watching Mary Poppins every day. I knew it word for word. So when I was 5 years old, I used to call me suffragette because I would walk in around going, "Well done, sister suffragette." and I didn't know what it meant, but I think it was subliminally making me a feminist just by singing that song over and over again. So Mary Poppins is one of my favourite.
It's very good.
And it's back with Emily Blunt.
¿Qué prefieres, una novela o un libro de poemas?
Novel.
No. ¿Un avión o un tren?
Train.
Tren. ¿Mar o montaña?
Oh. Sí.
Muy bien. ¿Verano o invierno?
Well, your winter is my summer. So, today I am on my summer holidays. So thank you for that. So I'm going to say summer. So my summer, your winter.
¿Teatro o cine?
Oh. See, I love musicals. So if it was musicals, I would go to musicals over film every day.
¿Cuál es?
And I could sing, "Well done."
¿Ese sería tu favorito, tu musical favorito?
Sorry, what? Favorite musical, I love Wicked, and I love Matilda, and I love Singing in the Rain. I'm in love with Gene Kelly. I'll just keep talking. I love all musicals. Facebook? Oh, Instagram. Follow me on Instagram.
Follow me on Instagram. Ok, creo que son las preguntas que tenemos aquí y vamos a pasar algunas preguntas para el público. ¿Quién quiere ser primero?
The question is, that's fine. Okay. So I've read a lot of novels, and you have this recurrent theme that is magical realism, as you mentioned. And I find here in Latin America we have different authors, like Gabriel García Márquez or Isabel Allende, that have this magical realism in their novels. And I find really interesting how I read your novels and there's this small town where something magical happens, and that happens too. So I don't know, like, if you can tell us some of your authors or what inspires you to add this magical realism to your novels.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that other authors inspire me. I think it's just the way that I think. I love to, as I said earlier, I love to just look at things from a very different perspective. I love when things are tilted. The way I explain it is, if you're looking at some very obscure art and you have to tilt your head and close your eye like that. If I write my books, I'm like this, looking at it from a different angle. And I love to escape, but I suppose on the surface they seem fun and playful and surreal and unusual, but at the heart of every story it's something real. These are characters experiencing real issues in life and real struggles. And what I really like to write about is the transitional moment in people's lives. Usually, always at the beginning of my book, the characters reach the point of their life, and they're kind of, I like to catch them just before they fall and bring them on this journey of healing and self-discovery and hope. And I like to do that so there's darkness, but then I also like to bring in light, and there's sadness, and I like to inject humour, and they're real, but I also like to inject something surreal and unusual. So it's a balancing act.
Parece que tenemos tiempo solo de una pregunta. Hi, huge fan. Like,
I understand you. I got fluent in Spanish now, no, I'm not.
Okay, my question is regarding the Time of My Life book, which I think it's a great book. My question itself is what happens after with the principal character, because I understood that it ends because, like, I'm not gonna say the end, but
no.
but it ends in a certain way because you like to you try to leave it open, like life ends up like that, and also how you come up with the idea of have a date with your life, how to put the attention on our life in a person, literally. So that's my question. Huge fan, really.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember the moment I came up with that idea. I hadn't heard from a friend of mine in a while, and I just thought to myself, that's okay, he needs her right now. And as I said that to myself, I was thinking of life as being something that needs you. And if you could have a sit-down conversation with your life, what would it tell you? And I think many of us wouldn't want to have that conversation. And so that's when the idea came to me that life is a person. For Lucy, life is a man. He irritates her. He won't leave her alone. He wants attention. And when she meets him first, he's unhealthy. He feels ignored. He's vulnerable. He's needy. Her life is needy. And so they have a series of conversations where they can begin a relationship. And a lot of the stories, I write about is, there are many love stories. And this one I wanted to be about a love story with her own life. So she's fallen out of love with her life and she has to try and fall back in love with it again. I remember I wrote that story after I took maternity leave. So I had been working like crazy, writing a lot of books, as I just explained. And I took a break and I I had got married, and I thought that was the year I met my life. And it just is no coincidence that that's the book that I wrote, you know, as soon as I got back to desk, to my room. Yeah, so we all have a moment, I think, where we need to sit down and have a conversation with ourselves or with our life. And that's what inspired it.
Bueno, pues creo que ya tenemos que retirarnos aquí, pero Cecilia va a tener firma de libros en el stand de Penguin Random House, ya ahorita. Entonces, y siguen ahí para conocerlo.
¿Te llevas esa?